Survivor's ready.
If anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so.
The queen stays queen.
You said rustle feathers.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to calamity. We have ripe bananas all the time.
Dude, my prize isn't even $1 million. My prize was that I fell in love in this game. Love at first sight. Her name is Candace.
You officially go down as the dumbest survivor ever.
Welcome to Not Game, How Personal. Hey, we are a Survivor podcast here to talk about all things Survivor, more specifically the events of this week and partly last week, I suppose. I'm Nathan. This is Tony. How's it going, Tony? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's going great. I've missed you. It's been 2 weeks.
Yes.
We rarely go 2 weeks in season without talking to each other.
It's true, unless it's a last minute, I forgot to tell you I can't record.
Yeah.
When that happens, we skip a week. So we got a lot to talk about. And
do.
I got to say, we picked the wrong week to skip. That's for
Well,
sure.
I was going to say, I'm hoping like that we just don't have to talk about last week at all. We can just brush that to the side and just talk about this week.
Well, so here's what happened, in case you're new to the program here. Okay, at the beginning of the season, we like to draft players on this season, right? This year we drafted 5 each, okay? I'm not looking so hot because I drafted Randon, who went home. Medical reasons. Is he okay? Has anyone heard from him?
Yeah, I think it took a while from what I saw for him to get like feeling back, but he's doing okay.
Okay, I don't know. I feel bad I haven't thought about that since.
You're just like, well, see you later.
And you made a very bold statement. You didn't just draft this person first, but you came out swinging, saying this is the winner edit. I have quotes to prove it. This is the next D. I mean, these are all things in the ballpark of what you were saying. Jem goes home.
All right, Nathan.
We don't record that. And then this episode happens, and now another one of my picks, Mariah, goes home. So it's like not very fair that like we're recording the episodes where my people go home and your people just skip over. You know what I mean?
All I'm saying, wasn't my fault that we didn't record, but I wasn't upset. Also, every once in a while, you like I called D early. I remember in the first episode, you were like, I don't even remember who D it was, and I was like, oh, I like D. I think there's something there, and you're like, okay, sure.
I did not
I'll
remember
look for
D.
it. Yeah, you didn't remember at all. So I was like, all right, heat check. Jem's gonna be my D this year. That was a weird thing to say. She's who I'm gonna pick, and so I went for it. And now I know how you feel when you picked Tori, when you picked Ellie, when you had like these people that you're like, they're gonna kill it. And they were just duds. We've all been there.
You notice how the past like 2-3 seasons I have not done that anymore. I
have noticed because I had to go back and remember their names. I was like, I remember Ellie. I don't remember the other.
I play it so safe now because I have been so wrong. I avoid using the term winner. I avoid my predictions are very just vague. Like, hey, this person has a storyline that looks like they could last a long time. You know?
Yeah.
That's what I like to say. I don't throw these big claims anymore.
You got to keep taking shots, Nathan, because when you hit like Monica during Winners at War, it's just legendary.
That's true. Well, we should just record like audio of us calling out everyone just so we can make clips at the end of the season.
Yep. Sub out the episode and actually re-upload it with the updated clip.
Right, exactly. I think that's the move. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Jem. We don't have to go into specific details on that last week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
Although I did think it was a good episode for what it's worth. I was thoroughly entertained. But how are you feeling about her Survivor journey? Do you think this was the right call to get rid of her? Were you shocked? I mean, walk me through what you're feeling.
So I'll take you back to last week, what I was feeling. I felt like Ben was probably the smarter move. I think he was probably the bigger threat, the one that you had to worry about a little bit more. I think I didn't fully understand why Jem was the one that was selected. And since I've thought about it since then, I think it was just overconfidence. Like she knew that she had the idol and she felt comfy. And so she's like, all right, it's like when you have the immunity idol And Tony is the great example of this. When you have the immunity necklace, that's when you make a move because you can't be touched. Idol's a little bit different because you can get real cocky and real comfortable, but you can still get voted out because you just think you're good. And so it's just a case of that. And also just the way that the tribe was talking, I think she was going to be screwed no matter what once she revealed she had that idol. So she was in a tough spot. Sucks to see her go, but yeah, she didn't. She had something there, but she didn't deliver at all. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I definitely was surprised that she went home.
Mhm.
And I didn't necessarily have the same prediction like she was going to win, but the way that her story was being set up, it did feel like it kind of got cut off quick. I
Mhm.
mean, and we'll get into this current episode where we have the mergetory or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
But like the fact that Tim seems to be like a major part now, like of the season, that's like
Mhm.
shocking to me because he
Yeah.
had not like there was probably 3 episodes in a row where he didn't have a confessional. So like I thought Jem was going to be one of the major players from that tribe for the rest of the
Mhm.
season. And so for her to go out, like I guess it does make sense like if one person was going to go out pre-merge from that tribe, I guess like let's give her a lot of airtime so we can kind of see it, but I don't know, it was shocking and I do think maybe Ben would have been the better choice, but I mean I think ultimately it came down to this supposedly strong duo that still exists between Charlie and Maria, and they chose to go with the guys over the girls at this vote, and we'll see how it plays out because they're continuing to vote out those girls, I guess.
Yeah, it was surprising because they like the first thing that we saw in that tribe was the girls coming together, and then watching that just collapse so quickly is just it was surprising. But yeah, Jem's out of there, and then Mariah. We'll get to that, of course, but it is surprising to just see the two Siga after they were very very good go out back to back.
Yes, I think the Siga tribe is, I think, where we're going to spend a lot of the discussion tonight, especially when it comes to the
Mhm.
vote.
Mhm.
I kind of love. Well, let's just get into this episode, okay?
Okay.
The Mergatory. I I love the contrast between the two large tribes,
Mhm.
Siga and Nami, because they each came in with a very different strategy. And not a
Yeah.
strategy in the sense like they didn't all sit around and talk about. God knows Nami did not come in on the same page, but
Nope.
they both tribes played this not merge, very differently. And I am fascinated at the outcome. And I don't know, just like for future seasons, how you want to play it if you are sitting in the majority. Because basically, Nami came in with like, okay, Venus is the bottom. We don't
Mhm.
we don't work with Venus. Venus agreeing with that to everyone, saying, "Hey, I don't
Yeah.
work with them." Everyone's on the
Yeah.
same page, maybe not to each other's faces. And then Siga's trying to play this, kumbaya. We're all friends. There's no bottom. We were all, unanimous vote last week. So just two very different ways to play it, and as of now, it looks like the Nami version worked better, perhaps.
Yeah, I do think that they were a little too much on it. And just to say for Venus, while we're talking about her, I feel like early in the episodes we're like, man, they're really like she's the villain for some reason, and we don't really see why. I think we kind of see why. She is kind of intense, and like I can see why she's literally offering herself up on a silver platter to be a vote and to join people, and they're being like it's off-putting to them that she's doing that. So I don't think it's just she reminds them of Parvati. I think there is something there to just how she interacts that they don't love, and so that's just how Survivor goes sometimes. But Nami in general, yeah, it's just being like, yeah, we want her gone. Every single, well, mostly Tevin, but all of them were like, we want her gone. Seems like the move because if you seem like you want to stick together, that's more scary, and you want to worry about that more.
Yeah, I do not understand why Siga thought that'd be a good idea. To be like, no, we're Siga strong. There's no
Mhm.
cracks. We're like, to me, that makes you so much more of a threat
Mm-hmm.
than to be like, oh, we see exactly where the cracks are. Because, like, I mean, it's the same type of mentality. It's like you want to keep the enemy that you know of rather than the one that could potentially be an enemy. So it's like, okay, we know that Venus is shifty. We know that she has the potential to do something a little shady now and then. But at least we know that. With Siga, you're not telling us anything, so it could be any one of you 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's just being so confident and so like, yeah, we won't even like give you a name. When Mariah was the only one that didn't vote with you, and maybe it's like wanting to be nice, not wanting to leave her on her own kind of thing, you almost have to give somebody up, I think. You can't be a united, strong front because that's a threat. And once you're a threat and you don't have the numbers, you're going to lose people. I think of, and I always do this, like I always relate it to something recently or in the past, but even just last season, seeing that 4 of D, Austin, Drew, and the lady,
Julie.
Julie, watching those 4 just be like, yeah, take Sifu, take the girl. Golly, I'm struggling with names right now.
J Maya.
Yeah, J Mine. Just being like, take them. Yep, we don't need them. And then everybody being like, oh, they're not. Those 4 aren't super close. Like that feels like the move. And granted, they didn't see that season, but that just seems to be the successful thing. You don't want to just be the strong 6 going into that because that's terrifying.
Right. Yep. No, exactly. Um yeah. Well, let's talk about I guess leading up into that. Should I help me out here? Should I take a break this season of complaining about this twist? Cuz I'm getting kind of
Hey,
tired of
follow
this
your
whole song
heart.
and dance. I just
Follow your
like I'm just like, "Oh boy, here comes the podcast episode where I'm just going to have to go on a rant because let me tell you I do want to do it." Of how
Hey,
stupid
if you
it
want to
is.
do it, I'll mute and you just do your thing and just give me a
No,
sign
because
when
we
you're done.
have, I'm sure we have people that have heard me say it before. If you haven't heard me talk about how much I hate not referring to this as a merge and how much I hate that next week we're going to split up into 2 tribes again, but yet that is called a merge, just go back and listen to
Wait,
old
so
episodes.
you don't think this week was a merge?
This week is more of a merge than next week, and I will always stand by that statement. You
No, but
can't
they're not merged. Jeff didn't say they were merged.
you can't split off into 2 separate tribes and call that the first merge.
No, they weren't tribes. They were teams in a challenge, an
So
immunity challenge.
I just like and okay, but here's my thing. And I've seen this take before, and I think this season I've saw a lot more people talking about it, so I want to bring it up. I think one of the reasons why this twist, which isn't a twist anymore, this is just the format of the show, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no indication that this is going to stop. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the past few seasons we have seen players prepare more and more for the new format of this new era to the point where these votes have turned out to be just incredibly safe in a way or
Mm-hmm.
obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the reason is it makes sense. Like, if you're a player and you're going into this vote, like last year or last season, it was the Caleb that went home, or sorry, he didn't go home, but he was the target, right? And then he got the shot in the dark. That was a very easy vote. It's like, let's get one of the few people that isn't in the majority of these 2 tribes. And the reason is these majorities want to keep their majority because they know next week is coming when they're going to be split up into 2 different teams, and it's a numbers game more so than it
Mm-hmm.
is right now. So Siga, Nami, we don't want to sacrifice one of our own because we might need the majority next week because we're going to be split up into 2 separate tribal councils. So it is just so unfortunate because it almost makes this vote so boring and so straightforward where we just need to go for the most obvious person, where this vote, the first vote that everyone is voting together, could be something exciting where we're getting out a big target, a big threat. We're seeing some moves, actually. We're seeing alliances break up but we have this extended week of tribe lines staying the same, and they don't want to break tribe lines until next week's episode is out of the way. That was a
Yep.
lot, but it's just like seeing this episode especially, and seeing how we've had multiple seasons now where the teams are very lopsided.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my pitch. Can we like have like a schoolyard pick? Wouldn't that be way more fun and entertaining and like dramatic?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like why does it have to be like completely random for this?
Or just bring the hourglass back. That's my take. No, a schoolyard pick would definitely be better. I agree with a lot of what you said. I had the same thought where it's like you have to go with somebody so safe and honestly someone kind of boring. Well, Caleb doesn't really fit that bill last season, but this season Mariah
Caleb
is just kind of
doesn't
somebody where
doesn't cause any
take,
waves.
yeah, you can take or leave him, whatever. Which there's a part of me that's like, okay, I don't hate that because that means that interesting players are staying in the game and we're losing somebody who's maybe not as interesting. And Mariah, I think there was something there. I mean, she's an Aubrey fan, so she's obviously terrifying.
A big threat.
Massive threat. Stupid. But yeah, so there is I agree with so much of what you said, but the idea of losing somebody, I think that this like half merge episode would be so much better if it wasn't being followed up with now you're going to split into tribes and do tribe stuff again now that you're officially like that's just a weird mechanic. Even if that was like a couple weeks down the road and they split into groups of like 5 or 4 or something like that, that might be interesting. Probably 5 would be ideal. But just at this time, it just doesn't work. I don't love it. So I'm with it. I can live with it and it's fine and I'll watch it and I'll enjoy it. And I think good gameplay is still happening. I thought this episode was very interesting and all the conversations that were happening, but I don't love the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
But it's just trying to be different for the sake of being different, it feels like.
Yes, and it feels like it's trying to fix a problem that didn't actually exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Venus is the perfect example. Now, I'm not saying Venus had great gameplay, even though I'm so confused about Venus. I understand why people are suspicious of her, but then when they start to say stuff like she's such a strong social player, I'm like, is she? Like, do you think that? Like, what has she done? She hasn't even been to tribal, and it seems like it's not working.
People like don't understand the like what those words mean.
Yeah, like they just say it. Like she's talking to a lot of people. That doesn't
like she's a good social player because she might be able to convince people to do something or
but has
make
she?
a plan. No, but like that, I think that's what they're nervous about. Is she's like snaky and she can like pull people together and like make a ruin somebody's game with some kind of plan.
Sure.
And so they're like social game. She can convince people of things. No, that's more strategic and a little bit of social, but it's just not what they think it is.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. My point with that is like a player like her, there's almost no wiggle room to like do anything here. Because like when she's saying like throwing Charlie out there, throwing out like some of these people, like she's making good points and it's things we've talked about, right? Like this era Survivor early on, it seems like the strategic social females are often targeted more so because of this. Hey, this era is so unpredictable, so we want to get out the people that might be a threat. Right? Like we want tribe strength, so we'll keep Hunter. He's not a threat right now, but we'll get out, like Venus. She's a bigger threat. We need to worry about her first.
Yeah.
And there's the way that this episode is set up, there's no wiggle room for her to do anything with that because, well, first off, like half the people you can't vote for, even though they get to vote for you. And then also people are wanting to play it so safe. So like even if Charlie is a better move, which I mean, if it's like him or Mariah from Sega, I would say like he's probably the person I would say is a bigger threat. But like people don't want to do that move because they want to play it so safe. So it just feels like this format hinders better gameplay that could be happening by players like her. or players that like maybe have ideas but they don't want to say their ideas because they're like everyone is trying to fit into the shadows right now.
Yeah, and just kind of the reality of the modern survivor is that playing it safe is the smart thing to do at this point. And that's never good for fun gameplay to watch. And so that's just the reality of like when you have people who are game players and kind of know that that's how the path to winning, because every season you see you make a big move, you get voted out. That's just how it has gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The other, I got this from a Reddit comment, but I can't get it out of my head. Okay, this
Mhm.
person said that this new era is set up. This is based on an interview that Jeff had years ago. Like before, I mean, maybe like 10 years ago, where he said some of his favorite tribal councils are the ones with like 5 or 6 players. And this person pretty much like this comment was pretty much outlining how this whole entire era is set up so that more tribals can have that number, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no tribe swaps necessarily. There's not like it's
Mhm.
always 3 tribes with 6 people, and then we extend it 2 more tribals into what should be the merge, where this episode there's 6 people that are up for elimination, and then next week
Mhm.
we get another 2 tribals with 6 people. So it's like Jeff is just continuing to extend that because he likes that number so much, and he doesn't love when there's like 10 people up for elimination. So I thought that
Mhm.
was absolutely fascinating, and I really buy into that theory.
Yeah. I will say, I kind of agree. Like 5 is a very interesting 5, 6,
Sure.
7. In that range is a very interesting like number of people. The bigger ones I think are interesting when you see like a successful 4-3-2 or something like that. Is always very like a 9-person 4-3-2. Stuff
Mhm.
like that is super cool. Obviously thinking of Tony when I say that. But 5 and 6 is where it's like one person can really wreck the plan of that tribal, which is always fun.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think I see both sides with that because I do agree. Like the smaller, like every vote is more valued that way when there
Mhm.
are less people voting, obviously. Um, and I forgot to add another layer to that would be the removing people's votes from the game too, and how that is such a big proponent in this era of like losing
Mhm.
votes, so that there can be basically that like the people who do have votes, they are so much more valuable rather than like, oh, there's 10 of us, my vote doesn't actually matter, so maybe I'll do a ricochet somewhere else. Like,
Mhm.
so it's fascinating, and again, I don't know. I think there are parts of this that like I could get on board with, and I could see like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do here, but I think it's more so the repetitiveness of it and the fact that like this is season 46 and you took away the hourglass, but have things really changed that much? Not really.
Mhm.
Like let's add a theme. Let's make it 2 tribes to begin with. I don't know. Like I don't understand why we have to do this for another 3 seasons until we get to 50.
Yeah, doing it over and over and over gets stale for sure. The last thing I'll say on it before we really dive into these tribes, I think, is
Yes.
it's interesting because I think, like I was saying, like modern Survivor is you don't make a big move until late in the game because if you do, you're going home next. If we just did a straight up standard Survivor game, just ran like I don't know, season 20, one of the 20s or something, where idols exist and advantages are there, but there's no like major twists. I just think
Mhm.
it would be really, really boring gameplay. Like I
Sure.
don't know how much movement, unless you have a really exciting player, but that's always a roll of the dice whether it be a really exciting player. I feel like it would just be very like basic, simple, easy gameplay until that very end where you might see some fireworks. And so maybe I don't know. We asked for well, I guess in Big Brother we asked for like a stripped back, just straight up Big Brother game. Just asking for a stripped back, like straight up Survivor game might just be really boring at this point.
Yeah, you're right, and and I don't think anyone's really asking for that necessarily. I think
No.
there's somewhere in between, and I think and again this, and then we'll get into the, but I think I think the bummer part for me is that it doesn't seem like they're even trying to like give a push and pull with it.
A little variation, yeah.
Where it's like they would like previous seasons, they would throw in a twist, be like, "Oh, that didn't really work. Okay, we'll walk it back and try it this way. Oh, now we'll do
Mhm.
this. Oh, you didn't like Redemption Island? Okay, we won't do that anymore. Oh, let's try Exile Island. It's a little bit different. But this one,
Mhm.
they're not even doing that. It's just like, nope, we have this format. This is the new era, and that's it. So I think that's the bummer. Is like they don't seem very interested in learning from their mistakes, except the hourglass.
Yeah.
I'll give them that.
Yeah.
They fixed that well.
I think if we look back, there's a lot of little things that they got rid of that we hated. But yeah, they've also kept stuff that we didn't love. All right, we go into this episode, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, for the challenge, it was pretty lopsided. You would hope that the puzzle would kind of help that a little bit, but then the lopsided side also had like Hunter and some people who were like also like physically fit and good.
Hunter,
at puzzles. So it's like,
who
all right,
isn't supposed to be good at puzzles. He's supposed to be the physical archetype, and somehow he's everything.
and he's just outrageously good at puzzles. I think one of the most interesting things of this episode and last episode is that Journey 6 and what's happening there, because it's a crew that feels like they're actually going to stick together, and it might just be off of like Q's hard work, but it feels like they're going to be a thing actually.
Yes and no. I can't tell because
Well, like you have Maria, who's like it's an option, but like that isn't saying that it's not a thing.
okay, so here's my take on it. Okay, first off,
Mhm.
I don't think I want this to succeed. I'll just say that. I think that's
Oh, I don't want it to succeed.
okay. Mostly because I think I'm kind of over Q, so I think it's
Yeah.
more of a personal thing where I'm just like I don't.
Oh,
want-
he's gonna go out in embarrassing fashion.
He's
and
just
I'm
so
looking forward to it.
arrogant about
Yeah.
like he wins one immunity last week and then goes to the journey and he's like, guys, here's the plan, you know?
Yep.
And like what are they gonna say? Of course they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I think this episode was really focused on the Tim aspect of it, where
Mhm.
and Q's even
Didn't tell
onto it.
Maria.
Right, which Maria kind of confirmed what we suspected. Like they're not that close, even though Tim
Yeah.
thinks they got this parent alliance.
Yep.
And I really think Tim is kind of in his own world where he was like, "Oh, we're so close with Siga, like we're all just friends, we're family, blah blah blah." And I don't know if he was actually playing Survivor that much, like the other ones were,
Yeah.
where everyone was like, "We thought you were close with Ben. Why didn't you take Ben in this?" You know, and
Yeah.
so I think that's an interesting aspect. And here's my prediction: I think when it actually matters, which it won't matter next week because they won't all vote together, but in 2 weeks when the 6 are actually like, okay, cool, this is our plan, I think Maria's going to spill it to Charlie because
Mm-hmm.
we have seen so much of like their duo actually being strong and in control, and like I think that one's going to be the one to stick. And so the fact that we were clued in that she's a little like, wait, what? I'm in the 6-person alliance? And the fact that
Yeah.
Q was like, Tim, you didn't tell Maria? That's my prediction. I don't know if it feels bold, but I think that's where we're going to go with it.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely possible. I think it's interesting that entire group was all on the same tribe too, basically, except for Maria. And yeah, she's definitely leaning Charlie. And I don't think she has any interest with actually working with Tim, but yeah, you ride that out as long as you can every single time.
For sure.
But yeah, what did you think of the merge feast where they're just like, "Hey, I'll give you Venus," and then they're like, "Hey, we'll give you Mariah," and like a name for a name, like just this idea of like, let's just offer up a sacrifice to each other. What are your thoughts?
It's fascinating. I think like I wish we saw more from the other team that like didn't win
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't seem like there was any really strategy talk between them alone until the other people got back. And I think that's like the fascinating part about like this twist where like these people win this reward, they win immunity, and all of a sudden like they're the ones that are deciding of these other 6. And that's the part that's
Yeah.
like very bizarre to me. It's like you didn't really win the power to like nominate people. You didn't win the power to do this or that, but yet like they feel that much in control where it's like, okay, the 6 of us are going to decide who it is, and then we'll go back and tell everyone else. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I think they can do that because what are you going to do for this tribal? You know, like if you're the other 6, you can't say anything because you can't do anything with these people right now until again, maybe another 2 weeks. So
I almost wish that they like randomly, since there's 7 of them, including Tiffany. They like drew rocks, and like half of them didn't have a vote, and half of them did going into this tribal. Because it feels crazy that half the votes are decided by somebody who, yeah, like you said, that can't be voted out.
I almost think they just shouldn't get any votes. I feel like winning immunity and getting to sit in on tribal council, that's enough of a reward. Like, to
But
me,
when you think about individual immunity, and I understand it's not individual immunity, but when you have individual immunity, you do still get to vote, and so that's the only area where I'm like, maybe they should still have be able to vote.
I suppose so. Or maybe it's like there's some variation where they get one vote as a unit. Is that crazy? I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
That'd be
Maybe a bad
interesting.
idea. Yeah, I don't know, but it does lead to this very lopsided like power dynamic that I don't love. Especially when you have, again, I don't know why Q irked me this episode, but like people like Q, who's just very like the way he like this is so matter of fact. This is the strategy. This is what we're all gonna do. Because again, her favorite player is Aubrey, so therefore she's a threat. I don't know.
There's no part of me that thinks that Mariah was going to be that sneaky and that strategic, but for some reason he was convinced that she was going to be a problem.
Right. Yeah, I did. It was interesting to see all of Yanu on that tribe, or the team that won, where it's like none of them are eligible, and I do wonder what the dynamics would have been if one of them or two of them would have been eligible to be voted out. Like, that would have changed anything. Does Nami and Siga team up? Because that completely removed that element from the situation.
Yeah, we don't really know at all what people really think about them. Because
No.
everybody knows Kenzie's a mastermind, and Q and Tiffany are
Right.
close. Like, these are things that
I
everybody
forgot
knows.
about that.
And we just didn't get to hear about that at all because they were never we never worried about them, so it was never a concern. Literally everybody on that winning group has a reason to be a target, but we didn't hear any of that. And so this next episode is going to be fascinating to see, okay, of those people, are we really worried about Hunter? Are we really worried about Q? Are we really worried about Kenzie? Like, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to fall.
Well, and the thing is, again, with next week's episode, depending on who's on what tribe, like Hunter, for example, like he should be threat number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's from our perspective that get to see everything. But like the right person needs to make that observation, but the right person might not be on his tribe next week or his team. So it might take another 2 weeks, and let's say he wins individual immunity into, you know what I mean? Like, it could take a couple weeks until he's even an option to be a threat. And so that's the unfortunate part about an episode like this, is where you're right, like we have 6 people where we don't know their thoughts on Tevin. We don't know their thoughts on Tiffany. Like, are the other tribes viewing Q, Tiffany, or Kenzie as the first one to go from those 3? We don't know, and it's kind of unfortunate that we don't know.
I think no matter what, those 3 can skate by for a bit until they're going to be an issue, unless they get a bad draw this next week if they do the split again. I didn't watch the preview. I'm not sure if they're going to. It wouldn't surprise me, though. Like, that's the only way that I really see one of them going, just because I think the Siga Nami war is starting, and I think it's just going to keep going.
Yes, and I don't think I would hate that. Here's, I think, I don't know. I was going to make a prediction. I can't even predict because I don't know what the teams are going to be next week. It's tragic. I do want to talk about Venus a little bit more. I know we kind of did.
Okay.
I feel like her and the Nami dynamics are just so fascinating. For what it's worth, I am a Venus fan. I do really enjoy her on the season, and I would have been sad that if she went home last night.
Yeah.
Is she gonna win the game? No. But is she gonna go far? I don't know. But I am fascinated, like I said earlier, this strategy of just like opening up your dynamics of like, this is our person on the bottom, and seeing how like it naturally worked in their favor by doing that. Do you think that is a strategy moving forward? Like, if you are this tribe that comes into the mergetory with numbers, do you openly say this is our person, but under the condition where it's like this is a strategy and everyone's in on it? So like let's say Venus, Tevin, and Hunter were all plotting together to be like, hey, we'll throw your name out there, but they might pick you up as a number. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's risky. I think you need a very special player to be willing to be that person whose name is being thrown out there. But yeah, there's a ton of potential for being like brought in as a vote, but you need to pick somebody that's a little bit more sociable than Venus is. Like I think they got lucky that she lasted this genuinely. I think Mariah kind of dug herself a hole, and whoever was in charge kind of decided that's the direction they want to go. Venus was digging a hole that, and not nobody was. She was like casting out lines. Nobody was biting, and yeah, she was digging herself a grave for sure. Yeah.
Do you think that people should have taken her up on something, or do you think
Oh,
most
absolutely.
people have the? Because I think that's the other part that I was kind of confused on is, in my mind, when you see a Nami like alliance and you have her on the outside, it kind of was confusing why Sega didn't even consider like, hey, let's pull her in because clearly she'd be okay with voting one of them out.
Yeah, it seems like it would be so obvious, but even then, if Siga decided to pull her in, if Yanu decided to go with Nami, they were kind of screwed. So I think they just tried to, and they're so focused about sticking together that they probably don't even want to bring somebody else in. And so they're just playing this weird game that I don't quite understand. But yeah, there is that risk of pulling in Venus, but then it doesn't matter because Yanu all joins Siga.
Right.
Or Nami, sorry.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I just feel like, and again, maybe it is just the format and the twist that like prevents that from happening, but and maybe we will see it happen. It's just like I cannot figure out like what is going to be her outcome because again, we have seen more of her than anyone else on Nami. Although I think she is in the worst position compared to everyone on Nami. So it's hard to
Maybe
figure that out.
honestly, just because of editing, maybe people were more receptive than they showed us, and it just didn't. The only thing that makes me question that is Charlie voted for her. Apparently, he couldn't bring himself to vote for Mariah, or I don't know why he did that, but
Oh, I mean,
maybe she did.
I thought that was a great vote.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just to be safe, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Always.
because that's exactly what didn't happen all of last season, and I kept pointing it out.
Mhm.
Remember, like it happened 3
Mhm.
times where they didn't have a
Mhm.
backup plan. So I thought he did the exact right move because again, if Mariah is safe and all the votes are neglected, then yeah. So I thought it was a good idea. But
I think Tevin, so you mentioned having that idea of splitting up. Tevin just so openly despising Venus. Like I just that can't be good for your gameplay overall. At least I wouldn't want to be aligned or work with somebody who just is so openly like hateful to it seems like hate. That's probably a strong word. But just like so openly against someone, like that's not somebody I want to work with.
yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I think it really just is a numbers and safety thing at this point, which is kind of a
Mhm.
bummer because like Tevin can afford to do that, right? Because one, he's
Yeah.
immune. He's never been to a tribal council where he could go home. So he doesn't know what that's like. And then
He's never
also,
been to one period. This was his first one.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. In his first one, he's
Yeah.
completely safe. So it's like for him and these other people, it's like
Oh,
they're
gotcha. Yeah.
they're allowed to have those vocal opinions because it cannot come back to get them. At least not right
Mhm.
now. Where it's like you're right, like Venus is saying similar things, but when she says it, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we should consider voting her out tonight.
Yeah.
It's weird. Another thing that's weird. Q very passively in a confessional mentioned that Liz hates soda. Did you catch that?
No.
It was
I
very
didn't catch that at all.
he was. I saw a couple people point this out, like because I heard it. I was like, wait a minute, and then other people pointed out as well. very passively in a confessional, he was describing the dynamics of Nami, and he was saying, um, I think it was Tevin. He's like, Tevin hates Venus, Liz hates Soda. It's all crazy, or like something like that. And everyone's like, wait a minute, Liz hates Soda? Why aren't we seeing that?
Maybe she just like dislikes fountain drinks. Maybe that's the issue.
Maybe he just got completely confused.
Yeah, he's like, oh, soda the person, not soda the drink.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yes.
wild. We haven't seen any of that. So for them to put that in there, I don't know if that was a little Easter egg for something to come or what.
Either an Easter egg or they just needed that confessional, so they just let it slide. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Liz and Soda, not very relevant in this episode, other than Soda
Mm-hmm.
and Venus bickering over Hunter finding the idol, which was very funny. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that was a wild ride. So Q, should we dig into Q a little bit more?
We can dig into Q a
Or
little
do you-
bit more.
What a fascinating human being! Like he is kind of running the show. It felt like in this episode, it felt like he was dictating what was happening. But there's no way everybody is falling for that, right?
I would think not, and I would hope not. But again, it's hard to tell because he's safe. So
Mhm.
nobody's going to stop him right now, especially if you like partly agree with him. Like if you're Nami
Mhm.
and you hear him not liking Venus, you're like, great, let's go. Again, the next 2 weeks, I think we'll see. But yeah, just I think the best way I can describe it is like he's just coming on so strong for having not that much power.
He like thinks like I got my 6 and so I'm good. And then I also have like Kenzie and Tiffany. Like he thinks he's golden and just super insular. He thinks he's in Tevin's position, or what we see is Tevin's position. I would say Tevin is probably one of the best spots of the game. Just how insulated he is with the multiple alliances.
Yeah.
And so that's what Q thinks he is. I genuinely think we're gonna get a great moment of him getting voted out and just being devastated and just flabbergasted, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's just like the way that he like presents himself as well. Because I remember like weeks ago when they lost one of the immunity challenges, and he just took it like so personal. Like, oh, this was my moment. I was supposed to step up. I should just quit because I like let everyone down. And it's like, dude, you all lost. Like, I don't know, it's part of it. And it's almost like he holds himself to such a high standard where it's like, you know, those people that are like, oh, I'm born a leader, so I need to step into like what I'm called to do or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's almost how it's coming across right now. And it feels like such a different tactic than like Kenzie and Tiffany, where they're just like, hey, we're meeting everyone. Let's go. Let's blend in. Let's talk. Let's build. And I don't think this is the position where you necessarily want to be in the driver's seat.
No. You never want to be seen as being in the driver's seat. Like you can be in the driver's seat as long as people don't realize that. And he's so blatantly in the driver's seat, at least from our perspective, which that's always different than what's being seen on the island. But
Yeah.
it's just wild to see how he talks to people. When he pulled Maria aside and was like, "Yeah, this 6-person alliance we have," and she was like, "Excuse me, what are you talking about?" Hysterical, just a delight to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
The other
Feels-
person that I would say
No,
is
go
like
ahead.
the other person I would say is similar right now, though, I would say is Tim. Tim kind of gave me those similar vibes where it's like, again, we're saying he's almost irrelevant on Sega as far as the edit goes, and yet he's kind of like the spokesperson on behalf of everyone, right? Like he's the one's like, Maria, we're in this alliance now, and then he's going to the merge feast and being like, okay, guys, so this is our dynamics. And I'm like, if I'm looking at that tribe, I'm looking at Marie and Charlie there. I'm even looking at Ben. Ben seems like a personality that people like, you know, seem to get like. Tim is the last person that I think is in control there, but yet for whatever reason, I don't know. And I think it was probably again that journey where it was like the two of them and Hunter, where they're like, oh, we're the comp beasts. We need to stick. Where I'm like, is Tim the comp beast on that tribe, anyways? I don't know.
He might be genuinely like nobody stands out, so there's a chance.
There's a chance. I don't think he's a hunter though. That's for sure.
I mean, very few people are a hunter. Hunter has a potential to like, I think, reach that upper echelon of comp beasts.
I think so
It's
too.
there. It's absolutely there.
Thank God he has an idol now. That's all I'll say for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, yeah, I don't understand. He has like so much confidence and feels like he's running things, but even the people that are close to him don't feel like they're close to him, and that's the worst thing you can say for a Survivor player. Kind of the thing you want is everybody to feel close to you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think his downfall is also going to be very nice to watch. I think so. I think him and Q.
Yep.
Those are the two I'm like, ooh, that could be fun.
Tevin too. Oh man, do I want Tevin to get blindsided so bad.
Who else do we have to talk about? I feel like that's most people that I have something to say about. I don't know.
I think Kenzie, like they're talking about her as a mastermind, and that might be a little extreme, especially for how early it was being talked about. Socially, I feel like she's very strong, and I think she is going to be a problem if they let her last for a while. So I think she's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I can't remember what it was in this episode specifically. I remember walking away, being like, "Ooh, there were a couple people where it's like, ooh, like this episode is where it shifted to like, okay, I'm in on this season. These people are interesting and wild characters and outrageous egos, and I'm so interested to see how it all pans out."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very curious about Kenzie. I think her, Tiffany, and Q are going to have a very interesting arc. Because we have seen this foreshadowing since almost episode 1 of Q wanting to break up Kenzie and Tiffany, and now Tiffany being in the 6-person alliance. I think that's really going to be where it draws the line, where there's going to be a situation where, I think Q will make up his mind, but Tiffany will have to decide, do I want to keep these 3 Yanu people, or do I want to go with the 6? And I think,
Yep.
especially because she didn't really get the decision to join the 6, we didn't get as much of like him telling her, but it was similar to like Maria, where it's like, hey, here's our alliance. I think I do hope there is something with like her and Maria where they're like, okay, we're not just gonna listen and follow along. We want to like make our own moves here. So I could see that happening too, where Tiffany's just like, actually, I'm gonna go with Kenzie now because I don't want to just follow you. That could be good.
If Q keeps playing the way that he's playing, if you can't identify there's something that's something that you don't want to attach yourself to as a player, then you just don't have a sense for the game, I think.
Yeah.
But I guess attach yourself to him just so that you can beat him in the end. That's also an option. But it's so like sporadic. It's just not. It's just too wild for me, I think.
Yeah. Question for you: If
I like
you
questions.
were asked on the island, one, are you a super fan? Have you seen a lot of seasons? What would your answer be? And also, if Q specifically asked you who is your favorite Survivor player, what would be not your answer, but the answer you tell him, like the safest answer to not be a target, since
Philip Shepard.
apparently you don't. No, that's too obvious. That's too
Big
obvious
Philip
of a
Shepard
joke.
Guy. No, he's just an awesome character, and he just kind of followed Boston Rob and rode like with him. He found his alliance and he kind of rode with that, and I think that's a really
No.
inspiring type of gameplay.
No, but see, I think saying Philip Shepard is already too much of a deep cut.
What about like Woo?
No, that's too much. I think you had to say Boston Rob. I think that's the only option. Boston Rob or like
Really?
Tony. Anything. Aubrey is a 3-time player, and that's too much of a deep cut.
Oh, so his concern was a deep cut. I thought it was like the wild game, like she's a very strategic player. I thought the strategic gameplay was the issue.
I think that was part of it too, but he also mentioned that like she knows all the seasons. She's a super fan and like all this stuff. So I think it was a combination of the two. So
yeah, I don't know that I'd be able to
if you pull out
keep secret that I've watched it a lot.
I think what you have to do is you have to be like, oh yeah, I used to watch some of the early seasons. I was really into it, and then I watched some of the more recent ones to kind of catch up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you. I think that's what you have to say, and you have to go with Boston Rob. I think that
And then
is
just be like, I
the
love
safest.
Carolyn.
Yeah, maybe, but like, oh yeah, I watched like a few seasons ago. Carolyn, she was so much fun. Like I loved how like, loving and supportive she was, and blah blah blah, like
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I didn't process that it was just like the fact that it was a deep cut was the issue.
I think it was both, which I still think is just such a dumb thing.
Yeah, that would be a hard thing for because like I've done the Survivor weekend thing and it's so difficult to not just be like, yeah, I know this or like I've seen this on this game or on this challenge because a bunch of people haven't seen it really at all and so being like here's all the wild stuff that's happened on Survivor is fun and so it would be tough for me to be out there and not be like, oh, I know this is going to happen and then be like, crap, I was supposed to pretend that I didn't know anything.
Right. Yeah, that would be tough.
I will say I would have killed the challenge of putting all the logos in order. Would have just been so good at that.
Do they have the season names on them too?
Yeah, because the logos all have the
Okay.
names on them.
Yeah, then I would have done that too.
Yeah,
That doesn't seem as difficult.
I was talking to my nephew last week, and I was like, I absolutely could have done that. And I was like, I could name them all right now. The only one that I forgot was season 10 Palau, but every single other one I was able to name like the name and the like season theme or place that it was filmed.
Yeah, I think I'd be close. Because I haven't seen all the seasons, so I think like 9, 10. I haven't seen a couple of the later teens, but I think I
Have you
could
seen
get.
Gabon?
I haven't. That's on my list of like I know I need to watch that one next.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I could get by context clues because he didn't even have to have all of them, right? It was just like a handful of them.
Yeah, it was order. So just get them in the right order.
But it wasn't all the seasons, right?
No, it was 20, I think, of the 40.
Okay, yeah. See, so if it was only 20, there would probably only be a couple from those, so I feel like
Mhm.
I could luck my way into it, even though like I do, because isn't Gabon 12?
No.
No, what is
No.
it?
17.
Oh, what am I thinking of? What's 12?
Panama.
Never mind. Shoot.
Which came first, Vanuatu or Palau?
Vanuatu.
Correct. Look at you go.
See, context clues, because I know enough of the teens to know. Okay, well if that one's 12, then or no, you said 10, didn't you?
It's 9 and 10.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in this episode? Anyone else?
I got nothing.
Okay. Cool.
Like I said, this is the episode where the switch flipped for me, and I think I'm in now.
That's good to hear. I don't think I'm in yet, but I think it's due to I don't think people are fully playing yet.
If you had to pick 3 favorites, who would you pick?
Favorites, like just people I like, not necessarily.
Yep, people
win.
you like that you're rooting for that you would love to see succeed.
Okay. That's very different.
Are those 3 different things?
Wait, okay. I want to see them succeed. That's the.
You're rooting for them, yeah.
I'm rooting for them. Venus is number 1.
Okay.
I love justice when it comes to seasons like this, where just like, yeah, go get them.
Big Taylor fan?
Yeah, I like Taylor. I do.
All right.
I'm on the side that she's a great winner. Okay.
All right, cool, sure.
Maria,
Okay.
and I'll say Tiffany.
Okay.
Oh, but I'd like Hunter too.
I'll give you an honorary 4th because I
Okay,
I want an
honorary
honorary
4th is Hunter.
The lame part is my honorary 4th would have been Hunter as well.
It still could be. That's fine.
And also, I would go probably Maria, Tiffany, and then Kenzie in that final spot. With Charlie just barely looking in from the outside.
Yeah, Charlie is. We didn't talk much about him. I can't figure out what he's gonna do.
He didn't do much.
I cannot
You heard that
figure
his
out
name
where
was
he's
out
gonna
there,
go.
and he didn't overreact, which is a heck of a way to play that.
Yeah. No, he did good. I hope him and Maria do something cool. I think that's a fun duo to root for.
Like kiss.
That'd be hot, I guess.
Maria, I don't know. That was weird. Sorry.
What did you
sleep.
want me to
Let's-
say to that? What did you like? What is my response supposed to be? You like you're shocked that I respond to your bizarre statement.
You just said something weird, man. I wasn't expecting you to be so weird.
I matched your level. That's all I did. You need to look in the mirror, sir.
You said that you hoped that they would do something weird together, and I said, no, I don't remember what you said.
Oh man, because kissing is
wrap
the
it up.
weirdest thing you could do. All right, for more episodes, visit
For them, it might be.
notgameallpersonal.com. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere listen to podcasts, really. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at NGAP Pod. That's at NGAP Pod. I'm Nathan. This is Tony, and we will see you next week.
12 seasons, 2 pals, 1 podcast.